Oh, g'day everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, brought to you by Crowcast, of course. Just a lazy little victory on the weekend, nothing much to talk about, but I'm sure we'll have something to say over the course of the next hour and a half. And why don't we just crack straight in, shall we? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Showdown 58, weekend of the Weekend Wrap, the episode that we all love, and particularly we're going to love it this week because we did all right. We did all right, didn't we? And joining me, of course, on the chat tonight is Macca. How you going, mate?
No, flying, mate. We're doing well.
And Big Man, how are you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. I tipped us by 4 goals in the end, didn't I? And that was almost what the amount of goals Port kicked. So it was a ridiculous result, especially given the conditions. I'm just wrapped, and it's getting a bit real now, Fee. It's all getting a bit real, which is scary, but also very exciting.
Yes, I hope you've all come along now. You've all joined me on the bandwagon. Macca?
Well, I thought I said it last week, mate, that I'm starting to feel it.
Mate, I was here I was here 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about?
if I said a fortnight ago, you would have been 3 weeks.
Unfortunately, Brownie's not with us tonight because he had quite a large weekend over in Melbourne and has only just got home. So he sends his apologies, but I tell you what, I was lucky enough to have his tickets, and I went with my eldest, the Big Rang, and I don't think I've been to a football match, and I'm struggling to think of a game that I've played in where it has rained as hard as it rained on Saturday night. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can only think of once when I was playing at Adelaide Boys High School. It happened then. I can't remember ever seeing it in a football match like this since then. And that was donkey's years ago, mate.
Yeah, it was insane. But Big Man, did you go?
I did. I played in snow and I played in hail. I haven't. I've played in some pretty wet games, but in terms of AFL game, I don't think I've seen not just the strength of the rain, but just the constant. It was like there was just no letting up, pretty much. And yeah, it was amazing that the Adelaide Oval held together as it did, because the SANFL boys chopped it up pretty big time as well. Beforehand.
Well, that was it. It had the warm up game, and it was already chopped up when we started. But I was lucky I was in Riverbank, so I reckon it was the only stand that stayed dry. The poor people in the eastern stand were getting absolutely belted.
Yep.
I played some junior footy up at Flagstaff Hill, and it reminded me of some cold and wet Sunday mornings up there playing at Flaggy. On a sandy ground that just turned into like cut glass when you fell on it. Oh man! But all the more amazing that we were able to kick 20 goals in those conditions, and at times made a mockery of those conditions, Big Man.
Correct. And this is it's not like us, is it? Like historically, we haven't been a particularly good wet weather team. And to see us so clean at ground level for what it was, but also not just clean at ground level, but also just smart, kicking the ball off the ground when required.
Yep.
and not trying to play some super duper pretty game. Like it was very much textbook wet weather football. And, but also just the way in which we crashed in and the tenacity we showed. We were just tougher than Port pretty much from the start of the game. So yeah, it was fantastic football.
I mean, they had a couple of little patches, didn't they, Mac? But after half-time, and particularly in the last quarter, they just wanted to go home and have a hot shower.
Yeah, look, in that second quarter, it was into the first quarter, they got a couple of goals. It was not the first, not the second, it was the first. And I was spearing at quarter time because we were so dominant, absolutely dominant, yet we were only a few points up. And I thought, it's going to be one of these games again. But no, Pedlar, I don't think it's bothered to score until the third quarter. And by then we'd built up a lead of something like about 8 goals or 7 goals up or something like that before they got another goal. And I felt pretty comfortable then. But I didn't expect us to do as well as we did in the last quarter because, I mean, the boys have been playing. They are hard conditions to play in. They really actually tire you because you're not running on top of the ground. You're running into the ground. And but to run over them like 8 goals, I don't think they didn't get a goal in the last quarter, did they? I don't think so.
No.
And we got no. And we kicked 8 in the last quarter, and I think that was absolutely outstanding because, we're just slogging away in that. It's pretty easy to put yourself into cruise control, but no, they didn't. I think they just went harder. And, I thought that was the outstanding part of the game to me.
I think it was the most ruthless we've been.
Yeah, we certainly wanted to give old Kenny a send-off, didn't we? It's, he was a gift that kept on giving. I've just got to mention, of course, we have a live studio audience here and good numbers in tonight, as you would expect. Don't forget we're live and interactive, so if you do want to have your say, stick your hand up. We haven't had anyone on for a while, so I don't know. I dare say it's because they just love listening to us and don't feel like they can add anything. But if there is someone that wants to have a dip and say a little bit, then please put your hand up. Feel free. We'd love to have you on for a bit of a chat. And also in YouTube, of course, if you're watching us on YouTube and you want to have a comment highlighted, stick a super chat in or whatever, and we'll certainly make mention of it on the cast. All right. Well, look, let's not mess around. Let's get straight into it, shall we? And the final score, of course, 20 goals, 13, 1-3-3. To 5-5-35, a margin of 98 points, the highest ever winning margin in a showdown. Port Adelaide's lowest ever score in a showdown. And not bad for Matthew Nix's 300 games of AFL involvement. Jordan Dawson's 150th and someone else's 50th. Who was that?
Mark Keane.
Mark Keane, that's right. So some good milestones there, and as we've already mentioned, an absolute belting.
Well,
you go, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. What I did like about it, it was actually an overall effort. It wasn't like you get one or two players absolutely dominant. I thought if you start right in the middle of the ground, they were actually fairly even. And I looked at the stats for the two ruckmen; they were almost identical. So really, from there it was really what the mids did around it once the ball hit the ground, and it's in a rarity really for us. We actually absolutely dominated in the mids and clearances. Butters for them was outstanding, but gee, he had not very much help at all. I mean, if they're chasing, NWM and they're going to put up Butters as a trade, well, he's coming to nobody because Butters is the only drive they seem to have. But they were terrible, absolutely terrible. And what I liked, as I said, it started in the middle. And at times, Thilthorpe came there and rucked, and I thought he was outstanding when he did that. In fact, I think probably might have done it even better than Rob, actually. Really, our forwards, I can't really pick one that didn't pay their way. They just didn't. Pedlar a little bit quiet, but apart from that, the three-headed monster, it had no problems with the weather. They all, if you look at their stats, they all had a lot of the ball, and if they didn't get the goals themselves, they certainly helped get the goals. So overall, and if you look at the back line, that was very tight, really, really tight. It really played well. Again, no weaknesses there. And I thought it was almost, it wasn't 100%, but it was about a 95% performance in the sense that there wasn't much more they could have done. And it was just that little bit, a little error here, a little error there. But overall, outstanding. The use of the ball in wet weather. You don't usually use the ball as well as that. But it was outstanding.
Now, I have to just give a quick shout out to Radicus, who's a very, very strong supporter of the Crowcast. And he's pointed out to me that I've missed the last couple of super chats that he's put in YouTube. So, first of all, I really appreciate Radicus' support, because he's been one of the, along with one or two others, has been one of the stronger supporters of the cast, and is always happy to donate and stick in some money for a coffee. And it's not by design that I've missed your chats, mate. It's just sometimes I've got too many things going on the screen, and I'm trying to make sure Macca's not logging out and Brownie's not logging out and all that sort of stuff. So thanks very much for your feedback and your ongoing support. All right. There was something I was going to say. Oh, right. So, okay. So we were on top for 12 hours or so. And the best thing about that win, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the fact that it was amazing to kick that score and get that margin in those conditions, was that Geelong's result didn't have a huge amount of impact in the gap between us and them percentage-wise. And I would think with their soft run home, you could say that they might have been our strongest opposition for a top 2 spot. But we've managed to hold them at bay with still, I think, 10 percentage points in front of them, big man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it's a fair whack of percentage, and we've got a couple of games coming up still that we could potentially, at least negate any percentage loss we could potentially have over the next couple of weeks. So I think that should be enough. It feels like it's a huge advantage to us. Obviously not against Brisbane, because Brisbane have the draw in hand. But apart from that percentage of ours is just, it's like an extra game, isn't it? It won. So, and it's amazing to think that 2 games on a Saturday night and the average margin was 99.5. We basically, negated any gains Geelong made against North. And you're right, I can't believe how soft Geelong's bloody run home is. It's crazy. But it's, the destiny's in our hands now, because Gold Coast got the job done against Brisbane. That's another thing. So like I said, it's getting kind of real, because look, I think it's a year 2 where you don't need top spot, but that top 2 would be so handy. And we're actually in the driver's seat now. It's just up to us to get it done.
Well, I think, Macca, that you don't. I think the winner could very well come outside of the top 4. In fact, because it's such a close season. But I think having home ground advantage in the first week would be, for that reason, would be such a bonus, because home ground advantage might be the only thing between winning and losing. Yeah, and as Big Man said, the ball's in our court now. We've still got 2 solid games, 1 away game to West Coast and 1 away game to North. And really, we can go 3-1, in my opinion, and still make top 2. Who would have thought that at the start of the year, Mac? Not us.
Yeah. No, your point about the home ground is quite important, actually, because we've got the next couple of games we've got are at home. I think it's the next and 1 more at home. I think we've got Hawthorn, but then a little bit later we've got Collingwood at home. So what I really getting at the two. Look, we should win the other 2. West Coast, North Melbourne. We're just putting them. I'm putting them down as win. So that's 2, and
okay,
we've done it. It's done, and then we've got Hawthorn, and that's going to be a good game. But I do think we can beat the Hawks. As somebody said in the chat, PJ, they've been a bit of a bogey team for us. But we're not in Tasmania this time. We were in Adelaide, so I reckon we can get them. Very important that we do. And then we've got, as I say, Collingwood at home, and I'd love to make up for the loss that we had on the MCG, because we really should have won that game. We kicked straight, and we were our own worst enemy that day. Just you talk about the home ground advantage for the finals. Absolutely. You have a look at Gold Coast. Away, get slaughtered. Home, they slaughter. Brisbane, they at their home ground, they win. They had to play away, they lose. So, it's there isn't that much between all the teams. So the advantage of home ground is big, really big this year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. and it would give us an opportunity potentially to knock out one or two niggly teams. You know, GWS look dangerous in the bottom half of the top 8. Western Bulldogs, if they get in, could certainly do some damage. And even Brisbane, if they drop out of the top 4, you know, they're the running premiers, so you know they're no slouches either. So to get one of those on our home deck at some point during the final series and have that advantage to knock them out would be fantastic. You know, we made a bit last week about giving Matthew Nicks some credit about the success that we've had, particularly after half-time this season. And, you know, I think there was a bit of chatter on Big Footy and some other forums about, you know, who's responsible for it, and has Nicks really changed, and is it more Murray Davis and all that sort of stuff. And like, I think it's the sum of the parts, but at the end of the day, Matthew Nicks is the bloke with his head on the chopping block. So if we're going to bag him during the season, then we've got to be able to also give him plaudits deservedly when things go well, in my opinion.
I agree.
I was going to make that very, very point, Finn, that you know, you and I, we've given him a bit of a hard time over a number of years, actually, not just a couple of weeks, but in fact, you know, at the end of last year, we wanted him gone. I think the club did the right thing, and rather he must have some coaching ability, and obviously the club saw that, and what they've done is they've propped him up with the support that he was offered to him early when he was appointed, and he said no thanks, but I think the club this time said, well, you're not going quite as good as you think you are, and you really do need some support. And I think that actually backs up what you're saying, Glenn. It's really the sum of the parts. So that with somebody who's got a good brain helping him, he's a better coach. So, and in fairness to him, then we have, as I said, we've torn him apart at times and really crucified him. And
and probably deservedly so, which is why he's had some assistance. And I don't want to go through the whole conversation again. I just wanted to point out there was quite a few people that were you know suggesting that Nicks didn't deserve the plaudits, and it's Murray Davis and it's the recruiting staff and it's Burgess and all the rest of it. And sure, I'm sure they've had input, but at the end of the day, the head coach's job is to coordinate all of that, take all the input that you get, and come up with a game plan and a unit that's going to win you a flag. And I think, you know, for all his faults in previous seasons, I think he's doing that. And big man, I think he deserves recognition for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think the biggest issue I've had with him is his conservatism with selection. And what we've seen this last 2 months is he's actually, you know, for the most part, played some kids in those peripheral roles instead of handing them to more experienced players. I know Murphy and Smith have got some gigs here or there, but for the most part, it's been more your Pedlar, your Taylor, your Jones, your Cook, guys like this, and it hasn't cost us. If anything, it's helped us. We haven't lost because we put those players in, and not only does it helps us for the future, but also for the now, because those kids are actually performing because they've been ready for a little while now and they're performing at SANFL level, so it's not overly surprising. The thing for me also with Nicks is that, you know, you're right, he's the one that takes responsibility for the good and the bad. And the fact that we have just turned things around so much with compared to last year with contested ball, with intercepts, I think we're actually right up there in terms of kicks, like taking risks inside 50 with our kicks and then paying off. Like we're basically a full ground unit now where like there's not really a weak link. I know like the midfield quality has been questioned, and that's probably the one question mark we still have a bit about the team. But obviously our forward line was always great, even though we didn't get enough out of them last year. But that defense and the whole team defense it's become so strong. Like, yeah, like obviously it was wet last night, but we still scored 130 points. So we must be doing something right. And that's been the case against the Gold Coast. And I know the Bulldogs game was a bit of a shootout, but that tends to be the case of that ground. So we are just so hard to play against. And obviously, you know, you got to give credit to Homsch and the like for that. But yeah, Nicks is the one that cops it when it's bad, but you got to give credit when it's due.
Yep. agree. And like I said, I don't want to make too big a deal of it, but I just wanted to make that point because he's it's statistically one of the biggest turnarounds of any coach in AFL history, and that's not hyperbole, that's actual fact. And if you go back and have a look at my video at the beginning of the season, where I tongue-in-cheek suggested, asked the question of whether Matthew Nix can be the Messiah, and I pointed out all the historical facts and statistics that said no, and he's defied all of those. And obviously, it all comes to nothing if we don't win a flag in this window. But for him, and he enters now a different phase of his coaching career because he's now coaching a team that is capable. So now he's got to be able to convert that into premiership success, as do the players and as does the club. I guess we judge him differently now, Macca. We judge him not as a rookie coach with a novice team. We judge him as an experienced coach with a contending team now.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. He for several years he was judged as he had a rotten team at the bottom, wasn't performing well. He had to rebuild it, and that's gone. That's gone. That's history now. This year has shown quite clearly the players are out there. The recruitment team, they really do need a pat on the back because they've actually, when you look at you and I used to savage them, and quite rightly so, going back 5 years ago for what they did or didn't do, quite rightly. And then if you look at the last 4 or 5 years and you list the players that we've brought in from other clubs and what we've drafted, and I don't think we've missed a beat. We really haven't. We've been really, really on the money. And now Nick's has got a very good set of players to work with. And they're starting to show when they put it all together as a team in a game plan that seems to work very, very well both ways, forward and back. And there's nothing I don't like about the way we play at the moment. I can't pick out anything we're doing that I would say I wish we didn't do that. So I think the game plan's good. We've got the players to do it. You'll get games where it'll break down because of certain individuals perhaps not having their best day. But overall, he has got the team. He's got the material to work with, and it's a lot of coaches get absolutely crucified when they haven't got it. But that's gone for Nix. He's got the team now. He's got the players, and we may not get a premiership this year, but we should be really having a real crack at it and getting ourselves into a situation that it should be automatic, not automatic, but we've got the team that we could go on next year if we miss this year, to go on next year and get it next year. So that's the way we should be thinking now. We should not be thinking about, I hope we win next week. We should be thinking that we got to take any team on and we have a very good chance to beat them. That's how it should be.
Yeah. And
sorry,
go on.
So there's a super chat just asking you pretty much about what we've been talking.
Why aren't I seeing those super chats? Who is it? Radicus?
No, it was Aaron Proberts. Says, thanks for the pod, guys. How's your trust in Nick's travelling? Sent a super chat for $8.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. That's fantastic. Just let me see why I'm not seeing these super chats. They're not coming up on the pop-out chat for some reason. Which is a bit rude, because that's the whole point of having the bloody things. Sorry, it won't be a second.
Well, while you're just doing that, Fane, you went to the game, big man. What was the thing you really liked most about the whole game? What's the thing you hated the most about the game?
There's not much to hate, to be honest, Macca. I think in terms of the good stuff, it was, and this is, to be fair, this is something that's a lot easier to do when you're playing well, but the full-on commitment from everyone to defend, to tackle, to chase, to go for the hard ball when it's there. Like even Cook was laying big tackles and going for hard ball. Like guys who aren't expected to always do that stuff were doing it and getting it done. And not just that, but also the energy of the group. You know, if one of our players is on the ground, and got 2 guys or 3 guys running up to help them up. You know, high-fiving and applauding every defensive act. Like sometimes I feel like in the past we've been a bit insular with that and sort of gone into our shells and not really been a particularly extroverted team on the field. Whereas like right now you can just see it. The bond of the group is so close and the energy is so strong. And like I said, it helps when you're winning because you're obviously getting the results from doing it. Cool. But it's just like a great sign, and I think it's like there are guys there just they look like they're bought in so much. Like Curtin, I mentioned even like last year, he's always been a good high fiver and getting around the players, but he's such a great teammate. He is so supportive of his teammates, and he's so unselfish, and then that just flows to the group. Neil Bullen's another one just like that, and yeah, it's contagious. I think. What about you, Mac? Like I know you weren't at the game, but did you see that too? Or
yeah, that last point you made is 100% spot on. Curtin is a very good team man, and he's when somebody gets a goal or does something great, he's ecstatic, and he makes a point of letting them know about it too. And Neil Bullen, as you say, is a ripper for that. They both played extremely well themselves, by the way, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, he has to be the rising star because, you know, we're talking about a star. We're not talking about somebody who played all year. We're not talking about somebody who gets an automatic selection or somebody who's pretty useful. We're talking about it with Curtin. I mean, he was rated for the last 6 games in the top 7 in the competition. So I mean, if that's not a rising star, I've never seen one. And look, this boy, he makes it look so easy too, and he's got no fear in him whatsoever. And at the moment, you can see he knows he belongs. He doesn't think he belongs. He knows he belongs, which is a big difference. And players play differently. When they know they belong, they're not on the edge. They're not, you know, scared to do things. They just play automatically. And he's one of the things I really liked about it. I loved the fact that Neil Bullen butted up again and did all the team business again that he did. And one I really like, I have to mention, because Athene and I have always argued about this bloke, and I was right at the time, but Athene would be right now. Barry, I thought I really liked.
I was always fucking right, Macca.
You are now. So I really like the way that Barry played. He's starting to believe he belongs. And I saw him talking on the sports show, and he actually sort of said that what he liked about it. He said, "Well, I never really thought I belonged before, you know, but now I'm feeling like that I'm there. You know, I always felt like I was on 10 to losing my spot, but I feel like I belong at the moment, and I'm playing well enough to keep my spot." And,
right.
and I
now,
like
you don't have to keep. Right, you don't have to keep filling air now, Macca. Because you're doing the whole podcast in like 10 minutes. So let's just rein it back in. Thank you for your assistance while I was sorting that out. There's a couple of people I want to catch up on YouTube. Drinks Break, Where's Brownie? I think I answered that one. Radicus gave us a few bucks for the thumbnail, which I agree, mate. I think it's a work of art. What else have we got here? Lockie 10, well done, Crom. You kicked our ass, a port boy. Well done for that. Scott March. Now, this is interesting, Macca. Interested if you're going to honour your bet and wash Macca's car every week for a year, Phoenix. Now, what was that bet, Macca?
I don't remember, mate. But I
can't remember, Scott. Well, I probably was. Scott, if you can remind us what that bet was, because I'm known to make some crazy calls at times. So if anyone can, freshen our memory on what that is, that'd be great.
Can you remember?
I don't know what it was. Aaron Proberts, as Big Man pointed out to me, thank you so much, mate, for your donation. You've been another long-time supporter of the cast. How's your trust in Nick's travelling? I think we've probably covered it. Yeah, I think he's benefited. Just to finish off the conversation on Nick's, I think he's benefited from having better support. I think the club is far more organised. I think they're all working in the one direction, and I think he's also matured in terms of being able to take feedback from multiple sources and be more collaborative as a coach and a leader rather than. And Mac, I was thinking during the week, you start off as a new coach. You got a young group. It's COVID, all the rest of it. It's the biggest team in town. Insecurity's got to make you think that you're supposed to be the bloke that knows everything. That plays a role, doesn't it? It's hard as a leader to realise that you don't actually have to know everything. Well,
yeah, I think that Nick's came in thinking he did have to, and he soon learned out that he didn't know it all because of the performances and also the players he's got, the team that he had. But these days to win a premiership, you've got to have every little bit in the club working properly, and that's not just the head coach. That's got to be his assistant coaches, and it's got to be the ones that take the lads aside that aren't in the team and just help them pick up little points that they need to improve upon, so they can put pressure on the players that are in the side. So it's the sum of all the parts, man, and the coach is the one that's at the top of that. And he's the one that's supposed to put it all together and make it work. And I don't, it's a rare coach. Has there ever been a case for a coach that's come in into a very ordinary team and got a premiership first up? I wouldn't have thought so.
Scott March has come back to me and said, I said after we lost to Collingwood that we wouldn't make the finals. And if we did, I'd wash your car every week for a year. I'm going to have to go back and watch that freaking thing. And then maybe I'll just take that podcast down and sorry, I never said that. And Scott March is your brother-in-law or something.
I don't know the guy, but he's obviously a scholar and a gentleman. Thank you.
All right, look, let's mosey on into some stats, shall we? And it was a shellacking stats-wise. Disposals 368 to 300, 248 kicks to 206. Pardon me, 128 handballs to 94. I don't think I've ever seen a handball count that low. 59% disposal efficiency to 53 in the wet. 65 to 43 inside 50s, if you don't mind.
Huge.
Our efficiency inside 50 was still 60% to their 35, and we took 14 marks inside 50 despite those conditions, which is amazing. Centre clearances 13 to 11. They were on top early, so we clawed that one back. Stoppage clearances 39 to 34. It was probably where Port did their best work, mainly due to Butters, really. Rob 51 to 46 hitouts. Riley Thilthorpe had a few of those. I think he had half a dozen. But it was a pretty good day for Rob despite the wet weather. The contested possessions 172 to 149, uncontested 174 to 108, marks 48 to 37, turnover 77 to 96, and that was evident at the ground. I don't know whether it was quite as evident on the TV, but from where we were sitting, Port were just kicking blindly the whole night. There was no method to their movement whatsoever. And it just played right into our hands. And, for a team that was belting the opposition, 103 tackles to 73, if you don't mind.
Doesn't surprise me.
That is a statistical disaster for Port Adelaide.
Well, they're just plain not good enough. It's interesting that just slightly off-centre, but talking about Port, Bogey, who I've always thought had
I don't care. I don't want to talk about Port. I don't care about Port. Go on the Port podcast, Mackie. You talk about Port more than the Crows. This is the Crowcast. Talk about the Crows.
I think I have so far.
Yeah, I know. And keep it going. I don't give a shit about Boke. Couldn't care less.
Gee, poor Macca you really
Just smashed him. Well, Boke only had one touch until bloody last quarter, so why are we talking about him? I couldn't care less.
It was in the last quarter.
I know.
That was his first touch.
I know. Anyway, let's move on. Nah, bugger him. I just don't want to waste time. Macca always loves talking about Port, and I know it's like little brother syndrome, but I couldn't care less. We just belted them by 98 points. The biggest thing to talk about Port is that they're absolute shit, and will be for the next 5 years.
That was the point I was trying to make.
All right, well, good point, Mac. Oh, I've had a couple of red wines, mate. Sorry. All right, now the Showdown medalist, Riley Thilthorpe, could have gone either way, I reckon. Jake Soligo had a massive game. We'll talk about him in a second. But Thilthorpe, for a bloke in the wet, and as I said, we're in the riverbank, and I was right behind the angle of the goal when he sold a bag of candy to Alir, and then politely just shuffled it through on the left from 52 metres out. That lad is a freak, absolute freak.
Yep, absolutely. And he's one of those players that I reckon, yeah, I mean, maybe apart from the Bulldogs, the other 16 clubs around the comp would be wishing they had someone like him. And he's only just turned 23. Yeah. So provided he stays fit, he's going to get even better, which is crazy to think about. And he's just so multi-talented. He's not just an aerial beast. He gets it done on the ground. He's not just a good kick. He doesn't just kick goals. He sets goals up. He's great. He's up there for goal assists again this year. I think in terms of goals and goals assists combined, he's like right up the top nearly.
He's had more goal assists, more score involvements than what's his face, Dacos from Collingwood.
There you go. And so he's not just a mark and kick player like a Ben King type. He just gets it done around the ground. He's so clean at ground level. He's so clever with the ball. He thinks differently to a lot of the other players. He's a marvel, and those conditions shouldn't have suited him. But I actually thought all our three tools play well in different ways.
Yeah.
But he was obviously the standout. Whether he was best on ground or not, I'm not sure. But it's funny. He deserved the Showdown medal in the first one earlier in the year, and he didn't get it. Rosie got it, so I'm glad he got this one at least. But he was immense.
Just on Soligo, I think he's a living example of when you've got a good kid that's got talent, that instead of just playing him in the twos all the time and giving him an occasional game, we sort of stuck with Soligo. If we had have done an in and out with him, I don't think he would have been playing at the level he's playing at the moment. What he has done though, he's had the opportunity to develop his game, and because he's been given that opportunity, and he's really grown this year. He's grown into a very, very good midfielder. And as you say, Finn, somebody that other teams would love to have. He's great. In fact, I would have given him the medal personally. Yeah. I just thought he was outstanding.
Yeah. Now, Macca, Jake Soligo has grown during the course of his career. Unfortunately, though, you've not remembered the format. We're talking about Riley Thilthorpe. We'll talk about Jake Soligo in a minute.
He was mentioned, Soligo was mentioned.
I just said, oh, Jesus wept. All right, back to the subject. And Reggie in the chat, God knows how many bloody super chats I've missed. I don't apologise for that. There's something wrong here. Reggie in the chat says, I've been listening since a year or two. Love the pod. Good to listen to on a Sunday night, and feels good to finally be a great team, bring on the finals. Absolutely. And I think we've mentioned over the last couple of weeks, haven't we, Mac, that it's a foreign feeling for you and I, having been smashing through this for the last 10 years.
Well, it's a pleasure to be able to talk about something positive when you're allowed to.
Get over it.
No, it is, but it is a pleasure to be allowed to talk about good things rather than bad things. I mean, mate, if you go back to our podcast going back a couple of years ago, they really were about slagging the coach, slagging the selection, slagging everybody, because it wasn't good enough, and it wasn't good enough. And at least the club has reacted to that and has put the doubts that puts out and put the people in the right place, the right people in the right place, and you're starting to get results. I think the biggest change has really been in our recruitment team, because I think what Nick's inherited was what they gave him, which was a heap of shit. It really was when you look at some of the players that he was given. But he's gradually been.
And the assistant, we had Ben Hart and bloody Brent Riley as assistant coaches in his first year. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so, the guy was really in struggle street. But, gradually there's been good players coming in, and to the point where I've got to say, I think that there isn't many teams that have done better than these. There's the really same villains that got us into this bad position. They're the ones that have got us out of it and given Nick's every chance to be where we are now. And the club also, I think, has got to get great credit for adding on Murray Davis and bringing Neil Balm onto the board, so it becomes a football board rather than a financial board. And
that was a big bugbear of yours, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, it's making us a footy club, and that's what we are now. We're a footy club, not an organisation. We're a footy club.
I think also, Macca and Big Man, I'll exclude you from this because you're just a rookie this year. But there's probably a fair bit of truth, Macca, to the fact that if it wasn't for this podcast and you and I flying the flag and demanding a review back at the end of 2019, nothing would have happened.
Yep.
Rashudo wanted us all to go back for another club. So I think actually Crowcast deserves this premiership.
Well, I've got
and all our listeners. We had. Do you know how many signatures we had to that petition that we sent into the club?
Well, we had a lot. I can't remember the number, but
it was over 1,200. It was over 1,200 signatures we got to that petition.
I don't think you're out of order in saying that, and it made a big difference. The fact that we're people who want to say good things about the club but can't because of certain things within the club, and then that was listed on that petition, and it went into them, and it made it very clear what the supporters were actually thinking and what was being said about the club. And it did, whether it was us, whether we were just another little poker that did it, it doesn't really matter, because we were on the right tram. That's what we wanted. We wanted a review. We got a review, and it's made a big difference to the club. If they didn't have a review, they'd be up shit street, absolute shit struggle street.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting hammered, Macca, in the chat for bringing this up. I said it with tongue in cheek, guys. Jesus Christ! But it's not. I think, in all seriousness, the club. If the club wasn't put under pressure by the supporter base, and I remember, and we were just part of the groundswell from everywhere, and the club had just been bowling along. It was an old boys club, all the rest of it. And I think collectively as a supporter base, we forced the club to change, to have a bit of a look at itself, and we forced the club to analyse itself. And it by no means was it a perfect review. They left the board out, and it took Johnny Olsen a little bit to get that sorted out. But I think the supporters need to have a lot of faith in the fact that we've been a part of this journey as well, and collectively as a club, I think the supporter base did influence the direction of the club, or reminded the club that we were here to support a football team, not a corporation.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that we were stressing, that it's a footy club and it's meant to be for its members, and it's meant to perform for its members, and it was too busy being a bloody corporation rather than, and, you know, people looking after themselves rather than the end result. And if you look at some of the people they had in the roles, that supports that particular comment.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go back to talking about Riley Thilthorpe, because his stat line was he had a career high 19 touches, 3 marks, 6 clearances, 3 goals, 1, 2 inside 50s, 10 score involvements, 11 contested possessions, and 447 metres gained. Now, that's the score line of a midfielder. 6 clearances, 10 score involvements, 11 contested possessions, 450 metres gained. And he's almost the tallest bloke on the ground on a wet night.
Outstanding.
Big man? Anything?
Oh, I thought I gave a good rundown on the bloke before.
Macca just threw me off.
He
started talking about Soligo.
He jumped ship to Soligo. So, I mean, Macca, did you think, who would you give him the 3 to? Actually, you and Finn, who do you think you would have given the 3 votes to?
I would have given it to Soligo.
Okay.
Yeah. At the ground, I know Soligo, probably not. He didn't stat pad in the last, but he certainly made the most of his opportunities in the last as well, and his stats rose from there. But his willingness to just continually get through contests and just take the ball with him, and accept and really desire body contact was really evident at the ground. And as much as Riley was fantastic, I thought Soligo's influence on the game was fantastic too. So I would have probably lent towards Soligo, but I wasn't unhappy that Thilthorpe got it.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, absolutely. Same here.
He looks better too, Soligo, at the moment, just running around the ground better. And mid-year, I thought he looked a bit fatigued and maybe carrying something, but the last few weeks he's looked like his old self. His power's back.
Yeah, Reggie in the YouTube chat, and I've been missing all these. There's something wrong with my setup here, but so it's nice to be able to actually see the YouTube chat now. Reggie says, the moment Big Man joined the pod, we've been a much better team. So apparently it's all on you, mate.
Well, if you invited me last year, I was pumping up our tyres about our pre-season last year, and then it all went to shit. So, good thing I just waited one more year, mate. And then I've come in. I've sort of, I've done the old come in one when the team's actually half decent. I didn't have to go through all the shit years you guys did. So,
yeah, I think there's a method in your madness.
He's a bit of a freeloader, really.
I've jumped on the bandwagon here, so that's all right. But
I must admit, mate. I was just going to admit, mate, it's a pleasure to have you, because I reckon you keep me sane. I mean, I've got Fiend hammering me all the bloody time, and you don't.
See, Fiend, you can be nice, and it's good for everyone.
You're such a fucking victim, Macca, honestly. Poor me, bloody Phoenix bloody shits on me all the time. Wow. And you want us to believe you're a hard-nut midfielder back in the days when football was football?
I was. After I kicked him in the leg, I'd smile at him.
Come on, mate. Anyway, all right, let's straighten up a bit. I've had. Have you guys ever tried Just Good Shit from the Barossa? It is Just Good Shit, actually, and I've had a bit of it.
What is it? A red?
Yeah, it's a Shiraz.
Very nice.
Quite nice. All right, where am I? Jake Soligo. I'm just adding his photo to the thing because I forgot. As we mentioned, would have been a deserving medal winner. He had 35 disposals, 13 contested, 4 tackles, 517 metres gained, 5 clearances, scored 2 goals late, 9 score involvements and 11 inside 50s. As you mentioned, big man, and we won't spend too much more time on Jake. he just seems to have come good, and whatever he was carrying, or whether it was just a bit of conditioning or whatever, I'm not sure. But to have him up and about and in such, he's an aggressive lad. He doesn't mind the contact, likes to get around the contact. So to have him up and about at the point end of the season is a bonus.
Yeah, I mean,
anyone.
Yeah, sorry,
anyone.
I just realised Mac had already guessed Soligo off about 10 minutes ago, so I'll go. Look, yeah, as I said before, he does look like he's back to his old self. And one thing I've noticed a trend in our games lately, and we've won like pretty much all of them, is that we haven't had huge numbers in the midfield. A lot of guys are getting 20, 25 at most through there, and it hasn't affected us. But Solly had a day out, like 35 touches for us is huge, and then combine that with the 2 goals. But he just bullied some of those mids, and like I know they're missing Horn Francis, who's sort of a spiritual leader for them in a way. He gives them that edge that they don't really have otherwise.
And would have been handy. Would have been. He would have.
But if you look at their actual makeup, they're quite well served for inside mids who have a bit of body strength. Wines, Drew, and obviously we know Butters. He's not the biggest guy, but he attacks the ball like he's the biggest out there. But it didn't seem to matter. Like Soligo outbodied them all, and his contested numbers were huge. But he also found some easy ball, which is good to see, even in the wet, because for the most part he's a really nice ball user. I know sometimes he blazes away out of stoppage, but apart from that, he's a really clever player. And it looks like he's hit some good form now, and if he can just keep that going and peak at the right time of the year, he could be a really important player for us. Because you take out Dawson, if Dawson has a quiet game, then we need a midfielder to really stand up. And if Rankin's playing majority forward, then I think Soligo is probably our classiest player next in line to do that. More games like this, and I think that's going to go a long way to us doing some damage.
Yeah, agreed. Look, there were many, many other players, and we'll go through a few of them. Benny Keys, a night made for him, and he's such an opportunist. Like that little through ball to Riley for a goal, and a couple of other things. He'll never die wondering, will he, Macca?
No, he won't. There's no doubt about that. He's just one of the very, very, very good players we had up there.
Yeah, 21 touches. He had 7 inside 50s, 8 contested possessions, a couple of clearances, kicked a couple of goals too, I think. I'm just looking for that.
3 goals, 4 thing.
Yeah, that's right. 10 score involvements, 17 pressure acts. I mean, I think was it in the third quarter we had something like 30 tackles inside forward 50?
The pressure in there was great. The pressure was really great. They really struggled to get it out of our forward lines. I just thought it was team football. I just thought that if we didn't get the ball, we made it very, very hard for them to get it. Or if they got it, we made it very hard for them. A decent disposal out, and I think that was part of one of the key parts of it. That we were bringing the ball out very, very well out of our defence, but they were usually just kicking in desperation most of the time.
Yeah. Alex Neil-Bullen carried on his good form, as you mentioned earlier. Had a really good game, 18 touches, was in and under the whole time. Lots of little 1%ers, little knocks and taps and shepherds and tackles. So did really well. You talked about Sam Berry as well, who I thought had a really good game again, and just continues to impress me, Macca, with his ability to run through contests. That's something I think where he was probably just in the pack previously with regards to his position in the side. I think it's his ability now to burst from congestion that has set him apart.
Well, actually, that's a very good point you just raised, because I don't reckon he was as fast as this last. He's definitely gained a yard in pace, and that's the big difference. There was a couple of times there where I thought he's in real trouble here, and he could actually sprint, and secondly, there were a couple of beautiful back turns he did to get out of trouble as well. So I think self-belief is a big thing, but I also think he is bringing more to the and particularly in the pace. I don't reckon he had that amount of pace last year, because a couple of those ones he did, he just burst with the packs, and I thought, Jesus, you really got a yard. And I really like that. He's never been frightened. That's one thing I do like about him. He'll go for a hard ball. So, I think he's got another step to go, and I think it's in him. I think he's got another step in him to make it. If he's come this far, he's starting to, and you start to believe in yourself. That's when you start doing the extra things, and I think that's what he'll start doing, like later this year and next year. He'll just get better.
Macca, isn't it amazing what confidence can do? Like this time last year, even in relatively dry games, he was fumbling half the balls he took. And then fast forward a year and we're playing in a monsoon and he's grabbing nearly everything. Like it's amazing how quickly he's come around in terms of his own belief, because that was clearly what was holding him back. And he's not fumbling. His take is clean. I know he's still a bit spotty by the foot, but there's some exciting signs there.
Yeah, not only that too. There's been a bit of chatter about whether Crouch will come back in. I don't know whether you watched the first game, big man, but I don't think Crouch was inspiring at all. And I thought Port actually played through him a bit. But I don't think Berry is a placeholder for Matt Crouch at all. I'd be shocked if Matt Crouch, barring injuries, I'd be shocked if Matt Crouch played any role in our finals campaign this year.
Yeah, I did turn up to watch the boys early on, and it was a funny old game. Like it was very slippery, and those conditions definitely suited Crouchy. But look, it was strange because he had 36 touches but one score involvement. So
yeah, and that's the difference, isn't it?
Yeah, look, that doesn't read well. I still think he played a pretty decent game, particularly coming back from injury. He's only his second game back. But as I said, he was tailor-made for those conditions. But, there were still moments where he was caught, chasing, with Port players, taking off out of stoppage, and he just wasn't able to close the gap. So, look, Berry does bring some more balance to our midfield, obviously at the expense of a bit of ball winning and such. That's the balance they'll have to strike. What do the coaches want going forward? Berry's done nothing to hurt his spot in the team, so Crouch is going to have to wait. I guess the question is, if we do lose an inside mid, is Crouch next in line? And some will be opposed to that, I'm sure, but I'm not convinced it would be anyone else at this stage other than Crouch. But I certainly wouldn't make an unforced change to bring him in.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get to that. I was always been a Crouch person in the past, but with the team going as it is and the way it plays, he doesn't fit in this particular team. No. The way we bring the ball out of centre, that just won't work. I mean, because it doesn't end there. Like you might get the ball out and there's a play, then the play goes on, and that's where Crouch gets caught out because he hasn't got the pace to keep up with his opponent. And he's been in the past, he's been good at dishing the ball out to teammates from the centre, but that does come at a cost because, as I said, he's not good at checking his opponent. And if you're playing somebody Freo with two real champions in the mid, they'll carve you up because they'll be going unchecked. So no, I just don't think we can afford to play him now.
No, I just wonder what we would do if a Berry or a Soligo or someone got injured, because ideally you'd put Rankin more in the midfield, but without Rochelle, it leaves us a bit light up forward. So would they go Crouch? I mean, Draper had a bit of a downer game, but I'd still prefer to get him in the team if it came to it. But yeah, I just wouldn't be shocked if they went down the route of going Crouchy if there was an injury. But otherwise, I don't see a spot for him yet.
No.
Yeah, I would have him. I reckon I'd have him up for trade at the end of this year. I'd be happy to see him traded.
I mean, we talked about this last week, didn't we? That the game seems to have changed and gone are the days of the grunt inside mid. You look at how Mitchell struggles for Collingwood. He looks a shadow of his former self. Playing for Collingwood now, and I just don't think. I don't think there's a role for a guy like Matt anymore, and he's got some obvious strengths in the contest, and he's a ball magnet and he knows where the ball is and all that sort of stuff. But when you see the extra stuff that we get from Berry, and I think the key that I see from Sam that we don't see from Matt is the forward movement, the ability to get through congestion and get the ball forward, whereas Matt doesn't do that. His distribution is by hand usually, or it's laterally most of the time by foot. So you don't get that same speed of ball movement, and you don't get that same penetration and fast forward 50 entry or whatever. So, Berry's got, probably 75% of Matt's inside skill, but he brings a lot more to the table, in my opinion.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I think his speed, like he would have lost about 10 kilograms when he bloody shaved his head, wouldn't he? That's probably where the speeds come from.
The old aerodynamics.
Yeah. Now, I've been a rabble tonight, I'll freely admit. So to straighten me up, we've got Animal. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, guys.
Animal.
Definitely can't complain with the current way of things are going.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
I missed the start of the pod because I was having some dinner with my lad. But did you guys bring up the first bounce of the game yet?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
That was hilarious.
That might be my favourite football moment in history.
It's definitely going to go down as an iconic. It's going to be an iconic showdown, mate. I was there, and it's like, hang on, I thought we were kicking this way, that way.
Yeah, I was the exact same.
Yeah. You're going to have to live with that forever.
Yeah.
It really set the tone for the game, didn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I wish Fogarty had nailed it, but never mind. Can't have everything.
Yeah, it would have topped it off. That's 100%.
What of a history of that? Remember David Roden?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Up in the was it in might have been Cairns or something, and he snapped the goal. And it was the opposition goals, and he even celebrated.
That's right. It was an own goal, wasn't it?
Yeah. Went straight through. It was beautiful.
That's pretty funny.
Hilarious. Go look it up if you've never seen it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I might have to check that one out. That's hilarious. Yeah, look, we haven't hit 15 wins yet, but I feel like we're a bit of a shoo-in to get there now.
Well, you have to think we're going to get West Coast and North Melbourne. We'd have to be really off our game to lose those two. So I think you can bank those two, and that gives us 16. And then we just look what we really have to do. We have to definitely win at least one out of Hawks and the Magpie. But I'd like to win both.
I thought it would be nice. The one I'd really like to get is Collingwood. We've been so close to beating them, even when we weren't as good as them. And I feel like we've got it in us. We've definitely got it in us.
And look, I think we got to run of something like that, 9 or 10 losses in a row against them, something like that. And I think the last 3 or 4 are for a total of about 12 points or some silly little number like that. So we're close. We're really, really close. And I still believe that we blew the game rather than they won the game. So, look, as you said, we've got the certain number of wins that we needed to make the 8, but now we've just got to lock in that at least number 2 spot, and if we can beat Collingwood, make it number 1.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, we could finish top. It'd be interesting to see how we handle the pressure going into finals if we do finish top 2, because it puts a bit of an expectation on us, doesn't it?
The one thing, Animal, that. Yeah, they do. And the one thing, Animal, that I and Vardy, I think, made the point in the chat earlier, and we talked about this last week. My impression is that this team is far more trustworthy and far less flaky. I don't think there's going to be many instances of them not turning up. They just don't have that kind of DNA. They're extremely competitive. They seem to really play for each other, and 2017 was we always just seemed like we were riding our luck a little bit, or riding a wave that wasn't sustainable. Whereas this feels much more valid. doesn't it? It feels much more repeatable, I guess.
Well, as a team, they've earned their success, and like despite the fact the media hasn't given us a shot over the last 5 or so years, I think most Crows fans have been under the impression, although it's been a little painful, that we're kind of building towards something. And I think even in 21, when we still weren't a great team, 22, 23, well, maybe 23 was okay, but it looked like we were heading somewhere. We weren't getting thrashed very often. We were competitive even against good teams we had a lot of close so-called honourable losses. And I know we all got sick of those as fans, but it looked like we were building towards something. And I really did have the feeling for all of last year that there was a good chance we were going to explode into form in the next year or two. Maybe not this year, but next year at least. It really felt that way to me, at least as a fan.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the results, sorry, Fiend, I was just going to say that 2017, we were a really good team that year. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, with the result at the end, it sours it a bit. But at the same time, we were 0 to 64 against North Melbourne in Tassie. Yeah. We lost that game. We got smacked. I know we've had a couple of iffy games this year, like the Freo game, the first 1.5 quarters against Melbourne. But for the most part, we've turned up consistently this year. And that's actually, and as you mentioned, that's probably been a theme for the majority of the last 3 years, is that we actually rarely get pantsed. I think the last time we really got pantsed was either against Essendon a few years ago or the Giants. We had a couple of bad games against them. And there was a couple last year where we weren't really particularly great. But for the most part, for a rebuilding team, we've almost always turned up to some degree. And this year in particular, our biggest losing margin this year is 19 points against Geelong. Yeah. In a game we probably should have won if we weren't so cooked from the week before. And beyond that, it's 18 points against Freo, and then we're starting to get into tiny margins. So,
well, I think we're actually our average losing margin this year is in the top 10 all time. I think our average losing margin is 12.2 or something, which is in the top 10 in AFL VFL history for a season at this stage.
Yeah, and we just keep turning up.
It is impressive. So look, and you have to say a bit of that is on the back of a great draw, which is kind of what I mentioned at the start of the year. But it still feels like, obviously, next year our draw is going to be a hell of a lot harder. And regardless of how we do in finals this year, I think we've sort of built a strong enough team to handle a better draw or a tougher draw. We do look competitive against good teams. And I think we're starting to get to the stage where we can challenge other top 4 teams away as well, which is really a sign of a great team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which it didn't feel like that last year. It felt like we could challenge them at home, but we were never able to do it away. And I think this year we've turned that corner quite a bit. But the thing I actually sorry, go on.
I was just saying, just about the draw, that has to be looked at a bit closer, because I agree that the draw, I think the good thing about the draw was that it had a bit of a soft opening. So we had those first few games to really build our confidence with some easy wins. Yeah. I think that's really important. But if you actually look at our draw, it isn't actually that soft. We've got a couple of nice double ups, which were North Melbourne and West Coast, but we actually haven't had those second games yet. So we've won 14 games now, but we only played those two teams twice. We only played Richmond once. So we haven't played North and West Coast. We haven't got those wins under our belt yet. So I think it's being oversold just how easy our draw is. I think for the first half of the year, our draw rated in one of the harder groups. I could be corrected on that, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So
for me, it wasn't much about the double ups. It was more to do with the fact that we had a lot of home games against tougher teams that we were a shot in, and a lot of away games against a lot of away games against easier teams, a lot of home games against tougher teams, which it definitely helps for a team that is sort of middling to top. That's helped us out quite a bit, I think. But you're right, it's not as easy as maybe they're not giving us credit for. But the thing I kind of wanted to come on and talk about a little bit was just to give a little bit of credit. And look, I heard you talking about the reshaping of things and the review we had to go through a couple of years ago and stuff like that. But I kind of just wanted to give a bit of credit to Matthew Nix and the recruitment team. Oh, and look, I know this might be a sad point for some people, but despite the fact he's definitely made some coaching errors, and I'm not as in tune with the game as other people that sort of see those errors that well. But I think as a coach, what he has done well is he's stuck fat. He's taken the credit for the losses in the media. He's taken it on his own chin a bit, and he's also he came into a club and it was a complete rubble, both on and off the field. Like, let's be honest, we didn't have much to go for, and I don't think you can look past the fact that from day one that he came in our club, the recruiting strategy has changed, because our recruiting, or our drafting more importantly, was a complete mess before that. We fucked up more first round picks than I want to poke a stick at in the years before Matty Nix came. We really did. I can't even think of a decent first rounder we got in those years before he came. But pretty much every single first rounder since, with possibly this exception of last year, sorry, Drake, only because we don't know yet, but I don't think anyone thinks he's going to be a bust. We've nailed every single one of them, and that's been really important, if you ask me. Even the ones that, like, I think people, when Rochelle was drafted, a lot of people were like, "Well, we're picking this small kid. What's going on here?" But I mean, I don't think anyone's complaining with Rochelle now, that's for sure. And even Thilthorpe, a few people said we should go for McDonald back then, and I genuinely believe we got the best player in a really weak draft, and we had that number one pick, even though he went to. There wasn't a lot to pick from in that draft, and we've clearly got a fucking good player, and we got a local kid that's clearly never going anywhere. And so that whole strategy, whether that's got anything to do with Nix or not, I think we've absolutely turned that around, because the years before it were a real mess, if you ask me. And, there's a few players from years before that we're still playing now, but not a lot of them. Most of the kids we drafted have been in the last sort of 5 years that are in the team now, with the exception of Worrell and Fogarty and a few others. But and so the other thing I sort of wanted to point out was, I don't know if this was a strategy that we did on purpose, but I think the idea of we've clearly gone for drafting the bookends first. All right, we've tried to build a great forward line, and we've managed to cobble together what's turned out to be a fantastic back line. And then in the later part of the last 5 years, we've started working on a midfield. And I remember the podcasts around 20 to 23, and it wasn't just this podcast, other Crows podcasts as well, and we're like whinging, why aren't we going for good midfielders with these picks? Why aren't we? What are we picking small forwards with our first picks for? But I think now that we're starting to see the fruition of that, it's starting to work out. It's starting to look good, and our midfield is starting to come along too. And more importantly, we are turning into a destination club. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Our salary cap is in a fantastic position, if you ask me. We've probably front-loaded a lot of our good players, because who the hell else we're going to pay in the last few years? So we've probably got a lot of front-loaded contracts that leaving us a lot of cap space to go after a big fish or a few big fishes in the next few years. They've been smart enough not to dump at too many overly expensive contracts, and that's a good way to keep your team happy going forward when you're not chasing Wanganeen Miller for $2 million, because let's be honest, he's not coming to us anyway. And on top of that, like most of our best players, well, a vast majority of them, excluding Dawson and a couple others, are just getting into their prime right now. They're just starting, and that's huge. That's a big white flag when it comes to getting other players to the club. And then on top of that, we're going to have the best training facility in the competition in the next couple of years. So I think we're actually in a really good position. Even if we don't do that well in finals this year, our club's going to start looking real attractive for players that want to move in the next coming years, because we've clearly got a good list and it's young. And we're going to have a great training facility, and we're going to have space in the cap. So I don't know how much Matty Nix has to do with a lot of that stuff, but if you ask me, I think he's stuck fat. He's stuck fat in a time when we were basically fucked. You come in, in a really tough time, which would be a death knell for a lot of coaches. And I think there's a lot of us that were probably pretty scared around 2020 that we could end up like Melbourne or Carlton or North Melbourne and be sitting at the bottom for the next 20 years, like those clubs have had to do. And it didn't work out like that. We essentially went from bottom to top one or two clubs in the comp in the space of 5 years. And I can't think of another club that's done that off the top of my head. So I think there's some credit there. Now, you have to give some of it to Nix. I think you really do, regardless of
100%.
how effective you think his coaching strategies are. he's a part of that. He's 100% a part of that, and I think he deserves his credit where it's true. You know.
And
Well said,
what do you
mate.
guys think? It was an excellent mini podcast you did there, mate.
I went on a bit long and digressed a little, but I don't know. I just think he cops a lot of Nixie in the media, and he's a good chance to win Coach of the Year this year. I think he might get that.
What a call!
Very good, mate. Thank you very much,
mate,
mate, for coming on and straightening me up and straightening Macca up. Big man's all right, but me and Macca, we're cooked. So thanks, mate. Good on you.
All right, so don't get me wrong. I agree with most of the stuff he's saying. There's been decisions in the coaching boxes that sort of make you scratch your head sometimes. But I think all in all, when you look at the results we're starting to achieve and the way things are going and what hopefully is coming in the future, I think things are looking a lot better.
Nice work,
Very
mate.
good.
Nice work.
Mate.
Now, that's a hard act to follow, but if anyone else in the live chat wants to come on and have their say, feel free to do so. Animal just showed you how easy it was, and we really value everyone's input. All jokes aside, because it's a community that we've grown and developed, isn't it, Macca? It's a community. It's a village.
Well, it is. It's interesting that. If we don't really know a lot about all the people that are following us out there, but it'd be interesting. They know a lot about us. It'd be interesting to know a lot about them. No, it's good. It really is good because they've all got different points of view. Sometimes they come and it's interesting. Sometimes they'll agree with us, and then sometimes they'll agree with us and they're probably wrong. But everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. They've got an opinion. We've got an opinion. We put ours up there, and one thing we do put it up to be criticised or to be praised or to be nothing. We're out there. It's there out there. So they've got that advantage over us. They can just sit there and say nothing. They'll just say that was absolute rubbish. So they've got that advantage. But we love it just the same. With you, I think we are lucky to have the cast. I think the people out there in the cast were outstanding. Some of them will criticise me. That's fine, mate. I probably deserve it. No, I don't. But by the same token, you don't want all yes people. You just want people to be expressed.
You don't cry when they criticise you. Why do you cry when I criticise you?
Because they do it in a refined manner, mate.
No. Yeah, no, I go the thumb. No, it's fine.
You're a bloodthirsty attacker.
I will say this though. One thing Animal brought up was that with the whole process about rebuilding it, and it just shows that there's no laid out craft that works for every single club. Like he talked about how we've built from the bookends and then sort of filled up with bits and pieces in the midfield and whatnot. And you could argue that Carlton did the exact same thing. They when they started rebuilding hard, they got Wiedering, Curnow, and Mackay in the same draft, which is a hell of a haul. So they're getting these key position players, and then eventually they filled it up with midfielders like Walsh and Chera and stuff, and they still haven't achieved anything since, and they're probably actually heading towards another rebuild if they're not careful. So it just shows that you can have that plan and it still not work. At the same time, I agree. It's basically the opposite of what North have done. North have built through the midfield and then sort of try to put players who aren't particularly highly talented in key position spots, and it's not working out for them at all. So, it'd be interesting to see what have we done differently to those who are Carlton and North that is working for us. And I think a lot of it just comes down to picking players that aren't flaky, that are competitive and turn up, but also drafting local. We've got a lot of players, and we had 11 South Australians in our team on the weekend. So basically half the team, South Australians, a lot of them Crow supporters growing up. Doesn't mean you always have to go local in the draft, because then you miss out on guys like Curtin. But for the most part, it really does help, not just retaining them, but also I think there's no doubt it just gives that a little bit extra buy-in to the group when those players are from here and support the club. So, yeah, it'd be curious to see what we've done better than other clubs, but there's no doubt we've I think I heard Adam Simpson earlier in the year say that he thinks we've been the model to base a rebuild on. which is pretty high praise from Simpson. So, yeah, I just thought I'd address that for Matty.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably been a little bit of luck. I mean, we did go after bookends at the beginning, and, you know, questionably or not questionably or whatever, but I've seen some comments around saying it's a smart move because the tools take a bit longer and, you know, that sort of stuff. And, you know, we were lucky that Isaac wanted to come home. We obviously targeted Jordan from a long way out and managed to get him home. We obviously targeted Isaac Cumming, and were then fortunate enough to get Peatling as the steak knives, or not steak knives, but for the upsell on that one really. And Alex Neil-Bullen also wanting to come home. So, you know, we don't know how much planning and sort of ongoing contact with these blokes went into that. I would imagine more for Isaac and Jordan and not so much for Cumming and Peatling. But I don't think it can be argued that the insertion of Peatling, Cumming and Neil-Bullen this year has probably, I reckon, accelerated our rebuild by 12 months. Maybe 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. No doubt about it. I heard Peatling talking, Fiend, and he came here because he had about 6 or 7 choices, including the club he was at. And the reason he came here because he thought this club was starting to go somewhere. So, you know, what you said before about, you know, becoming a destination club eventually is starting to come to fruition. So he was one of them that thought this club was going to go somewhere. So that's why he came here. And he said he hasn't not disappointed. He said it's been everything he thought it was going to be and more.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been, I would imagine, a bit of happy timing. There's obviously been some good recruiting. There's also been far better, and I don't want to dwell on this, but far better talent spotting in the draft. I think people probably underestimate the stress that Hamish was under in the, you know, what was it, 2021, 2020 maybe, with his
he had some personal issues in 2016, and then
that's right,
later on, years later as well.
Yeah. So I don't think that can be underestimated, and I think he's bounced back really, really well. You know, not only our top draft picks, but we've picked up some gems like Soligo and you know, Taylor in the middle of the draft. So, you know, so it's the sum of the parts, as we said at the beginning. But I also think that, and I'm a big one on this, and I've never been a John Olsen fan like in his political life, but it all comes from the top. And if you've got a club that is all moving in the right direction, then I think it makes the job of those needing to make calls and decisions, it makes that job easier. And it makes it easier for everyone to pull in the one direction. And John Olsen, as we said earlier, has reshaped the board. Neil Baum comes in. You know, we get Murray in to help Nixie out, etc., etc. But I think particularly since Olsen got the Theberton deal over the line, there's been a real sharp change, or not change, but a refocusing on the on-field performance at board level. And I don't think that can be underestimated. So, I mean, look, we've gone from, people might think we're schizophrenic because we've gone from bagging the club for God knows how long to now giving them plaudits. But I guess we're doing so because what we're seeing now, Macca, is actually what we've been calling for a long time. So I guess that's why we're happy.
Well, as somebody once said, I have a dream, you know, and look, we had a dream team. We wanted us to be as good as the good teams. We were sick and tired of being a bloody bottom team and getting our asses kicked and picking dubs, and the whole framework was not good. And I think what we called out, we called out correctly. We called it out correctly because it was absolutely. I reckon if we go back about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I thought we'll never ever win another premiership. I just wanted, I just couldn't see it. But it improved slowly with Nick's, and we weren't convinced. But like 2 years ago, it really started to get some momentum. It fell off the cliff last year for various reasons, and then this year, when it's resumed, it's been at a much more higher pace and at a higher. And one thing we have to say about the team that we've got at the moment. Before, we used to point at players like Murphy and say like he just didn't do enough. We look at somebody like Scholl and just say, well, he won't do enough, things like that. But you can go right over our team now, and I don't think you'll find one player that you could accuse of being a shirker. You won't find one player who doesn't try and play by the playbook they're supposed to play by. And that's one of the reasons for our success, in my opinion.
And Finn, I'll just add another thing. We're seeing improvement from our coaching in real time. Like there are, even within this season, not just comparing seasons themselves. Like we're actually restricting half-backs now. We're tagging half-backs. Like I know he's my boy, but he's like sort of Sambury, like with you, Finn, is Taylor to me. But we put Taylor on Rosie. We did that in the second half of the first showdown. And we started with this time around from the start, from the opening bounce. Rosie has to be, doesn't get a heap of it and gets moved into the midfield instead. So he's not playing off half back anymore. Like little things like that. Like we're actually just becoming a smarter, more restrictive team that doesn't allow other teams to play the way they want to play. So
even when we subbed, Max off, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when Chase came on, I noticed that for large portions of that period, he was tagging Butters. So it wasn't just a straight move into half back. We actually moved some magnets around and got him on the Butters. So look, fantastic stuff. We haven't won anything yet, as Alex Neil Bullen rightly points out last week. But it's just wonderful after all this time. As long-suffering Crows fans and all our community and the people that watch on YouTube and all the rest of it, I'm sure would agree. It's wonderful to now be following the side that we always believed we should be, and now it looks like we're in for a period of sustained. I'm not going to say success necessarily, but certainly strength as a club. And I think that bodes well. And hopefully it's a lesson the club has learnt to always make football the primary focus. And then the corporate shit will handle itself.
Well, exactly right. That's exactly right. Because, more successful you are on the playing field, that's where you start to attract the dollars into the club. Because people are prepared to spend money when you're a winner, but the pockets get sewn up when you lose. I must admit, I'm more generous at buying their raffles at the moment than I used.
Page of Motion asks, so Crowcast's not for sale anytime soon. My answer to that page is everyone's got their price, mate. So feel free to make me an offer.
Are we still talking about individuals? Because there's a couple more I'd like to just quickly mention.
Know. It's been an absolute rabble tonight. I blame Macca, but
you always do. We'll start off with that. We always start with it.
I have
That's
to.
That's a starting point.
The reason I blame you, the reason I blame you all the time, Macca, is because I know that you can cop it, you can handle it, you can carry me on your shoulders.
I've been roasted enough. I have to be hardened by now.
Look, it's easy. Look, it's one of those games. Look, let's be honest. The opposition wasn't flash, so a lot of players are going to play well. But there's a few boys that just like chat. Like you brought him up last week, and he performed well again. That's Wayne Miller.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
great game.
His confidence is building. He's kicking
really good game,
really sharp, and he's just his strength over the ball and in the air. He's defending well now, and it's nice to see him. Like I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we thought he could have been, but he's playing some very solid footy. and another one's Peatling, who's a bit like Berry and Crouch. He's made for these conditions. But his tenacity, he's ruthless. And I know he gets a lot of frees because he's got a long neck and he likes to raise the arm. But he is so hungry for pill. Like, there's not many more hungry for that ground ball than him. Maybe, like, there's Matt Rao. But after that, like, he is just desperate. And that's going to stand up when the whips are cracking if we go far in September, because he's unconditional. So, yeah, just a couple of blokes, I thought.
There's a quality about Peatling that I don't think can be overlooked, and it's very similar to Matt Rao, although Matt Rao is a much more bulky bloke. But Peatling's ability to move at speed with his head over the ball, at not running upright, but running like crouched down with hands at ground level, and his ability to maintain speed and power in that posture is elite in my opinion. He's so good at ground level, and whilst he doesn't have the massive frame, his speed in those situations and his second efforts are just amazing.
Yeah, and just one more I want to mention, and I'll be curious to hear your thoughts, Macca, because and Finn, like, I don't know how you guys feel about this guy, but Braden Cook, those conditions were not made for him. But he didn't have a huge game stats-wise, but I thought he's showing that maybe the penny has dropped for him in terms of his competitiveness. He's always been skilled with the ball in hand, but his work rate, and in particular his desperation for the hard ball, has held him back. He's been, there's been games in the past where he's been shown up in terms of his competitiveness, but he was genuinely showed some grit on the weekend, and that's now 2 good games for him in a row. He would have had a good game against the Bulldogs if not for getting knocked out. Do we see him as part of this team, like in the run home to finals? Like, I know selection's going to be hard to gauge, given injury and whatnot, but does he stay? Because I think I know he was a late in for coming, but he didn't do anything wrong, and he hasn't done anything wrong since coming back into the team.
Look, I totally agree with what you're saying. He's not renowned for his hardness in the past, but I must admit, I thought that was the most committed I've ever seen him physically in a game, actually. And I thought he did some, that somebody's mentioning that back kick to Fog, that was a classic back kick. It was an absolute ripper. I mean, whether to do a kick like that. And it just, he is a guy that's got a lot of talent. And he's one of those players, like, he's in the Taylor, Pedlar situation where they're all trying to stay in the team, and ultimately when we get players back from injury, all of them can't stay, and it's going to be who can actually play the better and who can contribute the most in the meantime. And I think Cook's well aware of that, and I think he's trying to make a winner himself there. By the same token, I think Taylor's trying to do it as well. I thought Pedlar was. The one, he didn't have a really great game, but one thing I reckon he can probably hold, he's probably skidded on his back the furthest distance in a match ever.
That was hilarious. He just about ended up in the bloody crowd.
I have never seen a player that moved that far on his back across the crowd, ever. And anywhere, any time.
He got caught right at the right moment, and he's gone out of frame.
He's lucky he didn't knock himself out.
Yeah, I want them to actually measure that and hold that as a record, because that is a record.
Look, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Braden Cook, because the thing about Cook and Taylor and Pedlar and these blokes, and even you can put Chase Jones in that category, when they come in, they play little cameos, and they don't get huge numbers, but what you don't see from them is letting us down. And I think that's the difference between us and a lot of these other sides, that their bottom 6 can make mistakes, but you don't see Cook and Taylor and Pedlar a little bit maybe, but our bottom 6, our last 6 in our best 23 tend to know their roles, and when they get their opportunity, they tend to make the most of it. And they seem to slot into the system very well. And I think that's a real strength. And I think Braden Cook could quite easily be in our best 23, but I also think that there's 3 or 4 others that could be as well. You could throw a blanket over them. Nankervis is in the 2s at the moment. We know that he's a good player. Rash has got to come back in. Isaac Cummings got to come back in. There's going to be some unlucky blokes. Yeah. The only one that I would say, and I love this kid Luke Pedlar, and he tries his guts out, but I think he's got to continue to improve his engine, although it has improved considerably since last year. But what he's also got to find is some composure, because he's playing like his life depends on it at the moment. And as a result, I think his head is full of stuff, and he lacks a little bit of composure. And there were times where he made errors or dropped marks or whatever, in tough conditions, mind you. But I think he's done that consistently over the last few games that he's been in, where everything seems to be at 110 miles an hour with Luke at the moment. And I'd like to see him just be able to do things at pace without being that bull at a gate. How do you see that, big man?
No, I think that's a pretty solid description. If you watch him in the sample previous to him obviously coming in the team, he's shown a lot more composure than he shows at AFL level, and I guess obviously it's an easier brand to play there, and there's less the intensity's down, so it's easier to sort of show a bit more composure. But at AFL level, it does seem like he's just rushing himself a lot. Yeah, he's being too he's just being too chaotic, and it doesn't work for him, because when he does actually show a little bit of class and finesse, which he is capable of, his game looks a lot better, and that's what we saw, a couple of years ago, and when he had that breakout year. Yeah. So I'm hoping he can get back to that. What's the trick to it? I'm not sure. That's for him to figure out. Because I think in terms of a pressure forward, he offers a bit to us that some of the other boys don't. You're not going to get that from Cook or Taylor as much. But it's with ball in hand that he lets us down a bit compared to those boys. So yeah, it's a tough one. I still have time for him, but he's got some work to do. And if he was the one that had to make way to go to the SNFL to work on his craft, and that might not be the worst thing, because I still think it's a confidence thing maybe more than anything, and just getting used to AFL. Even though I know he's 23 now, he still hasn't played much footy. Yeah.
Matt, we've seen it before, haven't we, with blokes that have been on the edge of the side, where every time they've come in, it's felt like they're playing for their careers every week.
Yeah.
And
that's how
I feel like Peds is like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. He's a better player than what we're seeing, and I think exactly what you said. I just think he feels expectation on him, and he's not handling it very well, because as you said, and somebody else has said in the chat, his body is often let him down, so he never really gets a perfect fitness base to come in on. I just thought that he didn't look up to it on the weekend. It's a hard role when the role he's trying to play in those conditions. I'll give you that's the first thing. But for me, if you look what Cook did and what he did, Cook looked comfortable in the game. Pedlar didn't look comfortable. So I thought he did himself no favours. I like him as a player, but I just want to see him get 100% and believe that he is a player, because I don't think he's playing like he believes it.
Well, I think that's a good point, Matt. Go on, big man.
Yeah, and there is we'll talk about selection for the Hawthorn game later, I'm sure, but just while we're talking about fringe players, and this guy actually hasn't got a gig yet this year, and he's been very unlucky. But he's actually, I know he didn't. If you look at the stats on the weekend, it doesn't scream off the page. But for me, he was our most AFL ready looking player, and that was Hugh Bond. Along with Nankervis. So he, those conditions were really wet, and he was super clean and decisive with the ball in hand. And these are things that I've actually had queries about his ability in the past. He's showing rapid improvement in terms of being a footballer. He's winning. He's just now winning contests non-stop at AFL. At SANFL level. He's starting to look too good for that level, which is always a good sign. So with Max out, I'd be curious. I get the feeling they're probably going to go down the Smith route, but I think particularly on someone like Nick Watson, I think Bond would be perfect. I love what he's doing.
Isaac Cumming comes back in for Max. In my opinion.
That's true. I forgot about Isaac. Having said that, like I was actually at that training session. I should have said something before the news came out. And he had his calf strapped and he wasn't looking too flash. So I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't actually play this Friday.
Right.
Isaac.
Yeah.
Because it's not that far off.
I mean, we will talk about selection shortly, but given Hawthorn's structure, Hugh Bond coming in wouldn't be the worst thing. Yeah.
No, he can play. Bond can play.
Yeah. Look, we could go through the whole side, and we've done so previously, but I think everyone that's watched the game understands how even it was. Everyone stood up when it was their turn, in my opinion. Some had bigger moments than others, but I think, Mac, as I mentioned earlier, I think the strength of our team now is that the bottom six in our 23 are fairly reliable, and I think again it's a credit to the system and the setup down at the Crows at the moment that these blokes come in and they are ready to play. You know, Braden Cook comes in after half a season in the twos, and he is ready to play. He's ready, like he fits in and all the rest of it. And you know, Sam Berry comes back in and he is ready to go. And we've got play. You know, I'm confident that if Nankervis came in, he would play his role. You know, so to keep those lads engaged when, you know, it's a fairly set 23 now, to be able to keep those blokes engaged and switched on is a real credit to the system as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit dangerous at the end of the year, though, you know, because there is basically almost a set 23. There's definitely a set 22. And there's probably about six, seven players that are playing in the twos that they're good enough to be playing A grade, and I just think we might lose some of them because their opportunities look limited. You know, we brought 3 players in, which, in fact, Berry actually mentioned that in his little speech that 3 players came and he thought, I'll get pushed back further again. But he said, I'm glad I fought my way through it and I'm in the side. So I think that might be typical of what the lads feel outside the main team. And, you know, Edwards has been... he's been racking up great numbers and playing well week after week. Bond's been playing well. Schomburg's playing well. Dowling, Billy Dowling. There's probably about maybe 5 or 6 of it. You know, Nankervis you mentioned. They're good players. They'd get a game somewhere else. We could probably lose some of these at the end of the year. I don't know who's contracted at this stage, and I haven't checked that. But some of them will be contracted.
That later. But I mean, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong at all. But I think that's the position that successful clubs find themselves in, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you probably in a squad you have a core group of 28, and then you have some younger lads that might be a year or 2 off, and then you have some role players, and we've probably got 30 players at the moment that could play AFL football to varying levels. You know, a bloke like Harry Schomburg hasn't been able to bring himself back up in dispatches. I wouldn't mind betting that a team like St Kilda or Richmond would have a punt with him. You know, Billy Dowling you've mentioned, Charlie Edwards, as much as I think there will be opportunities for Charlie going forward, you know, he might decide the grass is greener somewhere else. But, you know, that's, I guess, how you keep evolving your squad. And losing those, you can't not develop players for fear of losing them, because we could have had a bloody Essendon injury list this year, and you've got to call on those blokes to be ready. So, you know, what do you do? It's a good position to be in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And it's also showed that, you know, when we've been very lucky with this, but we've had a couple in recent times, and somebody's come in and the team has just still played the same. So they're obviously well trained, and they obviously all practice the same way, and that's why they all fit in when they come in. But it'd be hard being a player outside the main.
Yep, agreed. All right, well, let's Macca, while you, and I don't know why, but have you got the right microphone selected in your Discord tonight, mate? Because you keep cutting out a bit. You keep cutting out a bit.
Somebody says I am a bit choppy. No, I've got the same as normal, mate.
You don't sound like you're using your mic. I've got to say.
Hang on.
Have a look in your Discord settings. Click your little gear icon down the bottom and have a look at voice and see which microphone it's picked up. Unless you choose it, it'll revert every week. While Macca's doing that, big man, I guess just some final thoughts before we move on to Macca's weekend results.
Wait. My favourite segment, Macca.
The input device. Well, the input device is the default microphone.
No, we don't want default. I'll tell you that every week. We don't want the default microphone. We want the condenser mic. But I'm not allowed to get angry with you because apparently that's elder abuse. So. Oh, dearie me. How you going? You good now?
No. Output device. It's not giving me default headphones.
Input. Macca, listen to me. Input device needs to be condenser mic.
Needs to be what?
Condenser mic.
But it's not giving me that option though. That's what I'm looking for.
Well,
and I
then
can't find that option.
In. You haven't got it plugged in then.
Well,
don't worry about it now, mate. Don't worry about it now. It's fine. We'd waste too much time. We'll work it out later. All right, Mac, why don't we have a look at your weekend results, hey?
Okay.
Alrighty, so on Thursday night, Hawthorn getting it done, not overly convincing against Carlton, 13-7-85 to 9-7-61. Hello?
Is Macca there?
Macca's fucked up his settings.
Oh, no.
Oh,
it was going so well, too.
Shit. It was too. Can someone tell Macca in the chat? Oh, there you are. Hello. What'd you do?
Hit the wrong button. Hit the wrong button, as usual.
All right. Hawthorn, 13-7-85, defeated Carlton, 9-7-61.
Yep. Well, the Hawk jumped Carlton by 29 points in the first quarter, and that's about where it started and ended. It was just a pretty boring old game, and then they ended up winning by 25 points. And Hawks I thought they only did what they had to do. And it saw the retirement of Doherty, but I can't see a future for the Blues. They're hopeless.
I didn't see the game. How did Will Day play?
Look, his game sort of built as the game went on. I'd say that he would have given himself a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, okay. All right. The Bulldogs giving the Bombers a shellacking, 22-11, 143 to 7-8-50 in another epic Friday night showdown. Disgusting.
I mean, the AFL need to kick up their arse for that. I mean, it's just not on. They just beat up the bottom. As they do, they beat up the teams in the bottom half of the ladder, and Essendon, it's a injury-riddled side that they've got about 15 out, I think it is. Bontempelli was outstanding against them. Merritt was best for the losers. I wouldn't mind us having a crack trying to get Merritt. He'd be handy.
Yeah, I agree, Mac, 100%, but he's come out and said that he's an Essendon man.
Okay.
Unfortunately, just on we were talking about Nixon, the whole coaching situation earlier, and I must say that Luke Beveridge is the absolute example of an autocratic coach that isn't prepared to take on feedback, doesn't collaborate, and thinks he knows best. And that's the whole problem with him, in my opinion. And that's exactly the road that Nix was going down, in my opinion, and until things changed. Beveridge.
I think those comments are disgusting, Finn, if you ask me.
Do you?
I think they're absolutely disgusting.
Why?
Oh, remember after the Troy Pennell game, he said the journos asked him what he thought about the umpires, and he said after Crows said, "Yeah, disgusting." Yeah.
And
I was just giving a little reference back to those good old days.
Yeah, no.
But he's a flog.
He's a flog, absolutely. But his style is why the Bulldogs won't succeed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree totally.
Thankfully, we were saved on Friday night by a rousing second half comeback by the Giants after what a couple of players described as an epic spray from Adam Kingsley at halftime. 15-12-102, absolutely destroying Sydney after halftime, 8-10-58.
You couldn't believe the change. I mean, in the first half, Sydney were all over the GWS. They were 29 points up. And you thought, this is going to be just a real upset here. But in the second half, it was 12-8-1-2. I mean, they must have flayed them with a bloody whip or something. They just came out and they were fanatical. Callahan was brilliant in the midfield. Whitfield got his million kicks as usual. So, but in the first, Gilden, he played a full game. He's an outstanding. He's a great player, Gilden. But yes, I don't think that Cox is going to make a good coach. That's just my opinion.
Well, another one that could go either way, I reckon. And I look, Dean Cox, I reckon, is in a similar position to Nix in that he's got the insecurity of coming in after two great coaches for them, Roos and Longmire. But all the infrastructure that those two boys had during their coaching career is now gone. And Dean Cox is kind of like the lone wolf now. And there'd be a bit of insecurity, I think, with Cox about having to follow that and be the be-all and end-all. And, I think the Sydney are going to have to look at supporting him similar to what Adelaide's done with Nix.
You're 100% right, because I don't think he'll make it on his own.
No, well, I don't think it's that kind of caper these days. I don't think it's a singular... I think Michael Voss is suffering from the same issue at Carlton, to be honest with you. Carlton have a Messiah complex. They want the next Messiah. There's no support around him.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be coach of Carlton.
Now, how do you feel about Toby Green's halftime fat shame of Tom Papley?
Well, I mean, I really don't give a shit, but I just think that somebody gets 5 weeks for calling somebody a homophobic slur, and you're not supposed to, and they won't allow players' weights to be published anymore. So then and he makes his comment. Look, I think it's all bullshit. I think we're just getting too uppity about everything. Me personally, I've got no problem with it, but it's hypocritical in compared with what the standards of the AFL are supposed to be.
I agree with you 100% about the homophobic slur. I have absolutely no problem with Toby giving Papley a bit of chirp about his weight. And he was right. Papley hardly got near it after half-time. After Toby said he's looking a little bit fat, let's see how he goes after half-time. Well, he wasn't wrong, was he?
No, he wasn't wrong. And I've got no problem with it.
The amount of fucking chirp that Papley gives on the ground, he's like notorious for being a chirper up in everyone's face. So I don't have a problem with it.
The things that are said out on the football field, they should just stay out there.
Well, we're not kids, are we? Anyway, let's move on. Gold Coast doing us a massive favour and responding as Hardwick would have hoped they did by giving Brisbane an 11-goal shellacking.
Well, a week's a long time in footy, Pete. Gold Coast, they were paralysed against us in the first half, and we made them look absolutely bloody stupid. And then they come out in Brisbane, they just embarrassed them just made them look very, very ordinary indeed. And Rao, he's a machine, that man. He was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And Anderson, he's got plenty of toe, plenty of pace, and he got a ton of the ball as well. And I just couldn't believe that Brisbane could play so poorly. But that's taking credit away from the Gold Coast. That I think when you talk about sprays, I would imagine that they got a huge spray during the week, and they certainly reacted. They played very well.
Yeah. Now, Macca, I don't want to like rain on your parade or anything, but the stats show that when we start doing the rest of the results, our viewership drops off. and it's not because of you, because I think you actually keep more people on. Otherwise, there'd be more people dropping off. But I just want to remind people that after this, we will actually talk about the Hawthorn game before we finish up. So stick around. We're halfway through. All right. The Dockers are doing what they needed to do in the Western Derby, 18-18, 126 to the Eagles, 12-5, 77.
Slaughtered. I thought West Coast made a bit of a game of it for the first half. Harley Reid was centre of publicity as always, shoving, pushing, causing chaos wherever he went. I think he ought to concentrate on football. He'd do a lot better. But after half time, Freo just massacred after half time.
Yeah. Speaking of massacres, the Cats with Cameron kicking 11 touched up north by 101 points, 22-18, so 7-7. I mean, gee whiz.
Who cares? Move on.
Well, the only thing I care about is that Andrew, what's his name, Brayshaw, TV guy, James, made the biggest mistake of his life, turning down the AFL's offer to send North Melbourne to Gold Coast. Absolutely.
100% agree.
It's the only thing I've ever agreed with Caroline Wilson on.
Yeah, definitely should have been sent there. Definitely should have been. Instead, now they've got this team still underperforming, and they've got the Gold Coast that they have to subsidise to the tune of a bloody fortune every year.
Well, that's right. And now they're trying to bloody put games into WA of all places. And look, I don't want to dwell on it, but Tom Morris put up a comparison between North's rebuild and ours, which started around about the same time. And, it's chalk and cheese in terms of the progression. They had the super coach, albeit, after a bit of a ruckus with the Hawthorn racism debacle. But it just goes to show you that one man, no matter how good a coach, is not the saviour in modern AFL football. And that club doesn't have the funds, it doesn't have the following to get themselves off the bottom of the ladder, in my opinion. And I believe in the next 3 or 5 years, there's going to come a point where if they are still struggling like this, there'll be questions asked about their longevity, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think Clarkson's the coach he used to be either.
It's hard to know, Mac, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to know. And probably another autocrat as well.
I've got a soft spot for North, I must admit, just because of some family history stuff. But I will say that I just don't understand. It's amazing that they put so much from the draft into their midfield, and yet they're still getting smacked in the midfield. And
yeah.
They got such little down back and up forward, apart from a couple of players. It's just I don't know what they're going to do, because they should be performing now.
Yeah,
and they're actually looking worse than they did last year. You can't even say it's like a down year for them, because they've just been down. Like, I think they're heading towards another 17th finish. Like, God, like, we've had it tough, but gee, North supporters, gee whiz, like, I can't imagine what they're thinking right now.
See, I think they're, and I really don't want to dwell too much longer on this, but just briefly, I think they're late. I think the North players are lazy. I don't think they're motivated. I think they've lost hope, to be honest with you, because that team with that midfield, and they've got 1 or 2 good blokes up forward. they're not a team that gets done by 101 points at bloody Marvel. Like, it shouldn't happen. They're not that side. On paper, they're not that side. So anyway, Richmond made a game of it for periods of the time against Collingwood and get the margin down to 36. 8-9-57 getting done by Collingwood, 13-15-93.
Yeah, I reckon Richmond have handled their rebuild very well, actually, and it's it's shown their
first round picks.
Yeah, but what they did though, they decided to get rid of all the anybody's got real good value, so they can get good kids in, and no, they've got a future. Not immediate, but 3 years time they're going to be a good side. And Dacos had another picnic in the game as well.
Yeah. And in the last, I was shocked when I saw this score. As I said to Big Man before the cast, I thought Melbourne were going to win. I only watched a little tiny fraction of it and caught the score at three-quarter time, and Melbourne were miles in front. And then I thought I got the scores around the wrong way. St Kilda getting up. It was 15-6, 96 to 13-12, 90.
They were down 46 points three-quarter time, and I thought, I'll turn this off. No, I'll wait till the end. And the comeback by the Saints is the biggest in VFL, AFL history, that margin at three-quarter time. Incredible. And it wasn't a one-man show, but Wanganeen Miller, God, he was in everything. He's an absolute star. I just can't describe how good he is. And he personally kicked the last 2 goals of the game to win the match. And the last one was an incredible situation because scores were tied. And there was I think it's about 6 seconds left, and the free was given to North Melbourne because they for the second time the opposition didn't set up properly. They didn't have like a 6-6-6 set up, so it's a free. And all the players went streaming down into North Melbourne's forward line, but they can't do that because the ball hasn't been bounced. So there was this fiasco for 3 or 4 minutes while they tried to get all the players back into position. They finally got them back into the position. The ball went up, and what I couldn't get over, Wanganeen Miller was in there, and next minute he's marked the ball in the forward line. So that's all that happened in 6 seconds. So, and he's had a shot after the siren to win the game. So. Oh, Adelaide, just somehow get him. Just convince him that Porter go.
Well, if he goes to Port, it's not because he wants to win football. That's for sure. Interesting. Just as an aside, that 6-6 situation and people having to get back in. There was that situation when Butters got the free after we scored a goal, and they got a free in the middle. Afterwards, and they didn't enforce the 6-6-6.
Yeah, the umpire was incorrect. He should. We all streamed out. All our players streamed down there and clogged it up.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
And they got done in that situation. No doubt about that.
Anyway,
the umpire, he should have called everybody back.
Yeah. All right, so now I've done the ladder, and what I've done, because I'm sick of saying, and Gold Coast got a game in hand. So what I've done the ladder on the basis that Gold Coast beat West Coast, Essendon by 10 goals, right? So I've given them that win. Okay. Just so that we can see where we're at. So at the end of round 20, we've got Collingwood in front on 60 points, 135%. Adelaide on second, 56 points, 146%, best in the comp. Brisbane sagging off a little bit, 54 points, 110.8 percentage. I don't know about you blokes, but I reckon percentage is a big indicator of how a team's actually going throughout the year. And 110% for Brisbane is not convincing, if you ask me.
Well, you've got to consider that's a season's work too, or nearly a season's work, all bar games. So it's a pretty good insight into how the teams are going. And ours to be 140, I think is pretty good.
Yeah, I've not been convinced about Brisbane all year. Anyway, might be wishful thinking on my behalf. Geelong on 52 points, 134%. Gold Coast also 52 with that game factored in. Would be on about 123%. Hawthorn on 52 points, 119%. Giants on 52 with 118%. Fremantle on 52 with 117%. You almost think that's a lock now. The only one, the one that my predictor has Hawthorn dropping out and Western Bulldogs coming in. That could be about the only change, I think.
If we beat Hawthorn this week, and I hope we do, and I think we will, that makes that a real possibility thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they'll be quite desperate because I think to be honest with you, this week against us might be their finals game.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty right.
Yeah. Just quickly, the back end of the ladder, the Bulldogs sitting on 44 points, but very healthy percentage, 132. And then we've got Swans who are now out of it, I think, pretty much on 36. Port definitely out of it on 32 and only 83%. Carlton on 28. Melbourne, St Kilda and Essendon on 24. Richmond on 20. North on 18 and West Coast Eagles on 4. There you go. All right, so as we said, we've got, just to wrap up the cast, and I must say we've had fantastic numbers again tonight, so thank you everyone who's tuned in and participated. Let's talk a little minute about Hawthorn and the game coming up. How much are we worried, big man, that we had a pretty bruising, heavy encounter and we're on a 6-day break?
Yeah, and it's multiple 6-day breaks now because the Gold Coast game was a 6-day break too. So it adds up. I know they're all professional and all that strength and conditioning stuff, but even that little bit % off can make all the difference, particularly against a really good team like Hawthorn. Well, I should say they're a good team. I think there's still some question marks on Hawthorn, but they're good enough to obviously take it up to us, and they have a very good record against us even over the last 4 or 5 years. They're a bit like Collingwood for us, aren't they? And I think that there's basically two monkeys, excluding finals. In terms of the teams we're playing, there's two monkeys to get off the back right now, and that's Hawthorn and Collingwood. And we need to get one of them off the back at least. And I actually have greater confidence about us playing Collingwood just because we seem to match up a bit better against them. I saw some concerning signs against the Hawks last time we played them in Tassie. I know we should have won that game, but just things we allowed them to play on their own terms too much. And if we are off due to obviously being a bit sore and the team's usually a little bit flat off after a showdown, then it does leave us a bit vulnerable, which is a shame because it's Friday night and I really would love to see us play well. And we've answered pretty much every challenge put in front of us this year. So I'm not going to I would be surprised if the boys turn up again and get the job done. It's just that this does feel like, I don't know about you guys, I know we've got the Collingwood game came up in a couple of weeks, but this feels like the toughest game of the 4 remaining, just given the circumstances. Do you agree?
I see them about equal, Hawks and Collingwood. Different type, they play totally different game plans, and Hawks, Hawks is probably harder for us to counter. Collingwood is fairly predictable, but the Hawks tend to swarm a little bit. They're more smaller players mostly, and they've got a lot of runners, and they spread a lot. They do all your things that you need to do when you're not a big team. We've got to stop from Impey, for example, because he gives great delivery to upfield. So he'd be one that I'd be making sure that we had somebody trying to lock him down. But, so there's got a couple like that really are the drivers of the team, and if we can lock those down, I think we can beat them.
Well, last time we played them, Taylor wasn't playing, so if we are going to play Milk again this week, I'm assuming he's going to go to Impey because he was on Dale a few weeks ago, and he was on Rosie last night. So hopefully we can restrict him. I mean, they've got more players than just Impey. Like Dylan Moore's got a great record against us, for instance. But
and good form.
And good form, yeah. So I mean, I got to be honest, I can't stand Hawthorn. I feel like they've got a bunch of grubs in their team, who are absolute smart asses. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, they just have our measure. And it'll be a really hard game. I'd love to see us win it though, because if we win this, then party time.
I don't feel Hawthorn as much on Adelaide Oval as I would at the MCG, because I think the ground being slightly narrower makes covering them on the spread a bit easier. I think the wide expenses of the G, they really use the full extent of that ground to break through zones. Look, I can't. It would be fanciful, I think, if we were to go through to the finals without dropping another game. And I'm a bit the same. I see this game as more of a danger than the Collingwood game, not so much because of the matchup, but just because I think we might be a little bit banged up and fatigued at the moment. And I would imagine that what you mentioned before, big man, about monkeys on backs and stuff would be a prime motivator, because you're right, Hawthorn have been a bit of a bogey side for us as well as Collingwood. I reckon the boys, if you gave them a choice, which team would you rather beat leading into the finals, I think they'd take Collingwood. And I just wonder whether they might just be. It'll be very difficult for them to come up, in my opinion. It would be very tough for them to come up, and I wouldn't mind betting that we lose a tight one this week.
You sound like me, Fang. You sound too similar to me.
Yeah, I just think that from the coach's point of view, you just give them a real easy week. They're fit. They don't need any extra work to get fit. You just give them a very easy week. You make sure there's plenty of massaging, treat them like royalty, look after them, and I think I reckon we'll scrub up okay. And I am a little bit worried about the loss of Michael Lenny. Because I mean, he's the ideal type for to stand some of the blokes that you mentioned, big man. So I don't like the fact that he's not playing, but I won't be playing. But we'll get coming back, which is I think that's a bonus. So I'm going to pick us, and I think we'll probably beat him by a little bit more than you think. And I'm going for a 23-point win.
Yeah. No, look, I think. Certainly, head-to-head, with all things being equal, I'd be comfortable with our chances. I'm bloody still recovering from just getting out of the grandstand on Saturday. I can't imagine how those blokes are feeling, the day two niggles that you get after a massive slog like that.
I'll be naked at the moment. Yeah.
And I just wonder whether we might just be a half a degree off. What will be interesting, in my opinion, is how we approach this game, because I could see us trying to shut it down and win a 10-8 match instead of a shootout. I think if the game opens up, we're in real trouble, and I wouldn't mind betting that the coaching staff try to shut it down and make it a bit of a slog to save legs.
Yeah, I reckon that's probably right. Your thoughts, big man?
Yeah, and this is, I'll be curious to see what the conditions are. The last time we played them was a pretty dour affair too, but that was pretty much almost completely down to the fact it was just incredibly dewy.
Yeah.
So this time around, I'm not sure. If it opens up, do we risk having a Geelong style situation where we come out firing and then just fatigue and get run over? I'm not sure, and it's hard to know because our game plan typically stacks up really well against Collingwood. We just don't get the result. Hawthorn have actually been games we've actually been blown away quite a number of times now, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. So clearly, it was something Sam Mitchell does, or the way the players they've got seem to just take, they seem to have a bit of an advantage over us compared to other teams. And it'll be hard because they've got a workman like midfield. Newcomb's a good player, but he's not a star. And Will Day, unfortunately, is back, so that hurts. I don't think he played the last time he played him, did he? So
no, he didn't.
No,
so that's obviously, I know he's coming off injury, but he adds that bit of class that they otherwise don't really have. People will say, well, we should have won the game in Tassie, and I agree. That was definitely a win gone begging. Part of me sort of feels like, though, that and this is sort of loser talk, I won't lie, but look, you're probably going to lose a game into the run up to the finals. We've actually been on a fair winning streak now. We haven't lost since that Hawthorn game.
12 of 14.
And it sounds stupid to say because we need every win we can get to get that top 2 spot, but if it does come, if we do lose, it might not be the worst thing just to shake us up. I'd rather not, of course, but it feels like, I always say teams are due for a loss and they're due for a win, and we might be due for a loss. And if we're ever going to have circumstances come up where we're going to lose a game, I think this is probably it. I know the Collingwood game is a Perth trip off a 6-day break, which isn't ideal either, but it's coming off West Coast. It's not coming off a slog in a showdown, in the wet. So, I'm actually going to tip against this Fiend, which I've done a couple of times now and it hasn't paid off. But I think this is the one where I'm like, I think we probably will lose this one. If I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong, then, geez, the world's our oyster because we've just knocked down another contender.
Look, I'm genuinely torn because I think some will depend on how we treat the game. We've qualified for finals now. The next thing is qualifying for top 4, and then the next thing is getting through to top 2. So, I think a lot would depend on the condition of the boys about Wednesday, how they're feeling, who's screwing up, who needs a rest, who comes back in, how we decide to play the game. I think we might just lose in a tight one.
Yeah, look, we had to travel down to bloody Tasmania, and they're one of their home grounds, and they're much more suited to the ground that particular ground than we are. And we botched that one up in the last couple of minutes of the game. It was quite distressing, actually. But this time it's on our turf, and they're the ones that have to travel over here. We'll have the crowd. I just think that we'll have a very, very easy week. You wouldn't expect them to do very much at all this week. Just get their bodies right. Plenty of salt baths and plenty of heat packs and all whatever you bloody do. Just get the body right, come out, and I think we can win it. And I'm going not for a little win. I'm going for a 23-point win.
Is that what you do? Is that what you do after the podcast to get yourself up for next week? Have a nice salt bath and get the Epsons out.
Mate, I'm exhausted. I'm fine. I'll be up to about 2 up to about 2 a.m, mate.
Speaking of which, yeah.
I was going to say, just in case we don't talk about it, but we know Max is not playing. I think it's basically confirmed to be 3 to 4 weeks, which just sucks. Let's just assume Cumming doesn't come up from the calf, which is very possible because he wasn't moving that crash hot. And it's not that quick. It's a pretty quick turnaround to the next game. So I wouldn't be surprised if they rested him, even if he's touch and go.
Yeah.
What changes do you make for this week, given we've got at least one force change?
Well, the force change that if it is not coming back in for Max, I'd probably go small. I'd probably go Hugh Bond, but I would probably start him as sub and give Chase Jones first crack.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, Fee. I was going to mention Jonesy, that I didn't think he was the worst when he was out there. It would probably need, though, if he does play, he could moving players around a little bit, because we're going to move somebody into defence, but Jones can play in defence. So, Bond would be a likely type.
Well, they won't make it. Bond, I'd have him as sub. I'd have Jones into the 23 and Bond as sub, is what I said.
Yeah, look, not against that at all, Fane. I'm hoping that Cumming comes, because I don't know how bad his calf was, whether it was really Namcurvis is a possibility. He certainly played, I thought he played pretty good football in that position, actually. So he would have to be a chance as well.
What do you think, Big
I would, if we were to play Bond, I wouldn't play him as a sub. I'd put him on Nick Watson and just say you're not letting him touch the footy.
Correct.
I think that if Cumming does play, Cumming does play. That would be interesting to see what they do, because then I could see Brodie Smith getting a gig ahead of Bond, which I'm sure some people wouldn't be happy about, but I could see it happening. Let's be honest. The other thing is, do we?
I don't think so. They've had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to pick Smith, and they haven't. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, if you look at like Smith's been closer to selection than Bond has. It just depends, I guess, if they see as a max replacement, do they see Smith or Bond as the better replacement? Because we know Smith will give us a bit of run and drive, but he can't lock down a player like Bonds can. And I think Max is such a good player because he sort of blends the two. But at this stage of his career, he's still more of a lockdown player. So I'd prefer him to be Bond. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be shocked if it was Smith. The other one is like, do we make any unforced changes up forward? Like, because we talked about how Pedlar didn't really nail this spot. Jones has been sub 3 weeks in a row now. Do we look at this area? And here's another one. If Cumming comes into the team, we all agree that Cook stays in regardless. Is that right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Pedlar's one I'll be out. I'll put Pedlar's one out for me.
If Pedlar was to be out, or Chase, to be honest, I would prefer Nank to come in. I think he's been pretty good form is that sort of half forward role that he's been playing at the SANFL level. So he would be sort of taking Pedlar's spot there. But yeah, I mean, it's a winning side, isn't it? And so I can't see too many changes. But things, it's as you said, Finn, 2 6-day breaks in a row now. There's going to be some sore boys. It might not be the worst thing just to keep some boys fresh and rotate them, because I know we've got the Perth trip next week, and I imagine a few boys will be rested for that, like Tex likely. But for this week, yeah, I'm curious to see what we do, because we've got a winning formula right now. But even just getting a couple of new bodies in there might not be the worst thing, just to keep them fresh.
Look, if Cumming comes in, I would suggest that it'll be at the expense of Jones, and they'll keep Cook in. I don't think they'll drop Pedlar, because I think they'll be looking for forward half pressure. And whilst I like Nankervis, I don't think he provides that same level of ground level pressure that Pedlar does.
That's true.
So I don't think they'll go too crazy with unforced changes. But who knows? I mean, we don't know who needs to be made. We don't know who's sore. We don't know, there could be a whole bunch of factors that we don't know. But just, at face value, assuming Cumming comes back in, I think he comes in for Jones, and Pedlar stays in. Huh?
Oh, I love the
Do you mean for Max?
For Max, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
I actually love a comment that Vardy Magic's got. Well played, Pedge, until he inevitably hurts himself.
That's what he does.
He does every time. He never stays in very long. He always gets hurt. But I thought I didn't think he did enough. I obviously didn't think he did enough, and apart from the big skid on his back, and I'd replace him.
Okay, interesting.
All right. Well, I think we better wrap it up, because we've gone an epic amount of time once again, and no spoilers, please, on the Grand Prix, because that might have started by now. So thank you, gentlemen, for participating once again. Thanks to Animal for sharing his thoughts with us, and thanks to those who have chatted away on YouTube and also on Discord, with particular thanks to Radicus and Aaron, and also Reggie Miller for their kind financial support. So look, if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, please consider subscribing if you've enjoyed the show. And give us a like. It always helps with the algorithm, particularly because it's a live stream. YouTube doesn't seem to pump those up as much as videos, so the more likes the better. Thank you. And gentlemen, we will have a break and reconvene next week to do it all again.
Yep, not all.
No worries. Thanks, Fiend. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, all.